Remember those Scooby-Doo movies with the weird cameos like John Cena? Wouldn't you just love to have an entire series like that? Wouldn't you? Welcome back to Roundtable, I'm Nemo, and today we're talking about the latest Scooby-Doo series, Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. When they announced this a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh my god, this looks insane. Every single episode promised a new cameo, which doesn't sound that weird, except the guest stars they have are on quite a spectrum. They literally have everybody, from Jaleel White reprising his role as Urkel, to Sia, the musician. Already this looked like one of the weirdest Scooby-Doo series yet, and I was just waiting to see what it was like. And thank god, it finally dropped. And we got the first episode, so let's begin to unpack the weirdest Scooby-Doo series I've ever seen. So let me start by saying this is a complete homage to the original series by far. Everything from the tone of the show to the theme song is just a throwback to the original Scooby-Doo series. And for a show that has celebrity cameos, they started with one of the weirder ones, professional basketball player Chris Paul.
Basketball legend Chris Paul.
And I know what you're thinking, oh, he's a basketball player, can't wait to hang out at the basketball courts all with the gang. Nah, this episode takes place on a goddamn golf course. Let me start from the beginning. So Mystery Incorporated is busting yet another criminal. This time he's like a B person on Alcatraz. I don't know, this is an episode we were clearly not meant to see. When suddenly Shaggy gets an urgent phone call that requires the entire gang to rush to a Florida golf course. And I know what you might be thinking, these guys only have a van. How are they gonna travel across the country over water with just a van? The answer is simple, guys. They'll just get a helicopter to come and carry the van. Oh right, that's how that works. So we find out the person who called Shaggy down is famous
basketball legend Chris Paul.
That's right, Shaggy is canonically friends with famous basketball legend Chris Paul. So I guess Chris Paul called them down because there's this swamp monster who's kidnapping golfers, which is bad because there's this golf tournament going on that's supposed to save the art school. It's such a stereotypical plot, I love it. And if you already thought it was confusing enough that Chris Paul the basketball player is on a golf course, you can rest easy knowing that it's all in the end for a bowling team. I hope you're following along because I am not. The episode gets even more complicated when Shaggy almost backs out because he's nervous, and Chris Paul reminds him that he saved his life and that he owes it to him, which I don't know why they made his backstory so dramatic, but I love it. It's perfect. So Scooby just obliterates the bowling alley, and we have this weird action sequence where Chris Paul has to save the Mystery Incorporated gang from dying. I did not realize the stakes were this high. I just love how easily this entire outdoor bowling alley crumbles, but also the fact that there is an outdoor bowling alley is kind of crazy. Like, what if it rains? Where are you gonna bowl then, Chris Paul? Where are you gonna bowl then, huh? So because this episode loves giving us weird information we never had before, we find out that Shaggy is a caddy. In fact, the best caddy, like he's like a caddy legend. Also, quick little side note here, Shaggy just kind of sounds different to me. I don't know what's going on with his voice. He's not like a bad voice actor. He just sounds kind of off. Should've got my boy Keem. Use your head, Boomerang. Use your head. Shaggy ends up giving this weird sandwich metaphor to Chris Paul, and there's this completely awkward hot dog scene where he's like dribbling with the ingredients. I don't know why they want to make him a basketball player now. He hasn't been doing any basketball the whole episode, but that's okay. I'm not upset. They end up going scuba diving at one point, and there's a scene where Chris Paul is teaching an art class with the actual swamp monster. This episode is wild. I mean, as usual, Velma's just kind of figuring out the mystery anyways, doing all the hard work herself. I don't even know what Daphne does. What does Daphne even do? She hasn't done anything this episode. At least Fred has a sick ascot and like knows how to drive and stuff. Uh-oh, retcon alert. Remember how Chris Paul saved Shaggy's life? Yeah, well, I guess it's only because he gave him pizza. I'm so done. I can't believe I ever thought I could be emotionally invested in Scooby-Doo. My heart is broken. My expectations are lowered. Why would you take away the emotional weight that you added? Why are you playing games with my heart, Scooby-Doo? So Shaggy, Scooby, and Chris Paul end up being used as bait to lure the monster, and when they catch him, it turns out he's just the caddy kid who they introduced at like the last minute. I guess it makes sense. He told Shaggy to leave. I mean, okay. Scooby-Doo mysteries are like a puzzle you buy from the dollar store. All the pieces fit together, but at the end of the day, it's just so cheap. At the end of the day, it was a pretty solid episode of Scooby-Doo. I'm not gonna lie. There were some jokes that made me laugh. I know I may come off as really cynical and critical, but that's for the point of entertainment. I'm not really that mad over Scooby-Doo. One thing I can't seem to figure out is why they had Chris Paul as the first guest. When there's so many other bankable stars they could have started with, they should have used any of their other guests in my opinion. Not that Chris Paul isn't a good person or a cool basketball player, but like, I don't watch basketball and therefore had no idea who he was before this happened. So his entire cameo was wasted on me. I mean, he could have just been a character they made up and it would have made zero difference. Granted, there's probably huge basketball fans out there there that loved this cameo, that's cool. But I would have picked somebody who's like universally loved. What about like Weird Al? I know he's gonna be in there at some point. I don't know. I guess it makes me want to watch the next couple of episodes, but only to see the celebrities. So maybe that's the point of it though. Maybe they're trying to hook us in with cool celebrities and they're not gonna give away the good ones at first because then we'll stop watching. God, am I a diehard fan now? Did they brought me into this series? Oh no. He was great in this episode, don't get me wrong. Voice acting skills were top notch. He was looking good. Chris Paul's at the peak of his professional career, honestly. And I like the idea that they didn't just make it a basketball mystery episode. I mean, it's cool that they wanted to do something unique and different. But at the same time, it's like, what's the point of having a basketball player in Scooby-Doo if they're not gonna do something around his actual career? Like, this just could have been an episode of Scooby-Doo. There's no reason Chris Paul had to be here at all. It just kind of cheapens it. It feels like they're just trying to bait us to watch it just so we could see some Chris Paul action. I don't even think he holds a basketball this entire episode. At one point, he spins a bowling ball, which I don't want to question the physics of that. One thing that I mentioned before, though, that I do like is how meta it is. All the characters seem to know the plot beats of Scooby-Doo. They seem to understand the situation well, and they can recognize how many times they've been through this before, which I appreciate because it's sort of like a wink wink and nod nod to the audience. It's not like they're just trying to pass off the same old canned stories like they haven't been done 1,000 times before. Scooby-Doo is a repetitive show, and at least it's acknowledging that. And I don't know why, but the idea of Shaggy being friends with a pro basketball player is just the funniest thing in the world to me. So where does this fall on the Scooby-Doo spectrum? Well, besides the fact that there's a weird cameo guest every episode, there's nothing too special here. It feels very wholesome old Hanna-Barbera. The comedy's not trying to be sarcastic or witty or millennial or anything like that. They don't whip out cell phones or make references to Snapchat. This isn't like other modern iterations of shows, okay? They're not trying to force new technology down our throats to make them seem relevant. In fact, this series isn't trying to be anything that it's not. It's just being Scooby-Doo. Straight up, wholesome, simple Scooby-Doo. That being said, I really enjoyed it for its simplicity. It's such a throwback, and honestly, that's what Scooby-Doo needs right now. After Mystery Inc., which was just an epic saga, and Be Cool Scooby-Doo, which, what was that? Maybe it's good that we take it back to basics and the roots of Scooby-Doo to really see where the show came from and maybe where it needs to go in the future. Scooby-Doo has had some weird iterations in the past, okay? Shaggy had a red shirt at one point. Why do they change the color of his shirt? I don't understand that at all. And they've definitely been one to cop to trends of the time. I mean, remember this one in the early 2000s? It just reeked of early 2000s. Even What's New Scooby-Doo had like a pop punk theme song. Every Scooby-Doo adapts to the era that it's in. That's why it's a parasite that will never die and we all love it anyways. Scooby-Doo is like a cockroach. You can stomp on it, but it'll come back, this time with Chris Paul. Am I excited for future episodes? Yes, Bill Nye's supposed to be in this. And Halsey, like what is this gonna be like? The fact that they got this many celebrities on board maybe is an attempt to reinvigorate the series for a newer audience. Maybe there's little kids out there who love Halsey but haven't watched Scooby-Doo. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, Bill Nye's not even that relevant either. And Urkel hasn't been relevant in years. Wait a minute, who was this show for? Why did they make this? Scooby-Doo and Guess Who is a good, wholesome take on the series that I think overall is deserving of a watch if you're a Scooby-Doo fan. Something to write home about. It's nothing special, but then again, if you want something that's Scooby-Doo and really special, just watch Mystery Inc., okay? That show needs more love anyways. It seems like this will be the Scooby-Doo iteration for a while, but seeing the turnaround from Be Cool Scooby-Doo to this, I mean, what was that, like a couple of years? I'm sure there'll be another Scooby-Doo in no time, and probably even weirder than anything we've seen before. Hey, but as always, I want to know what you guys think about this. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you not? Let us know in those comments down below, or tweet to us at Roundtable Vids. If you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you can support us on Patreon or become a member of the channel and get exclusive access to scripts and avatars. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Roundtable. For more great cartoon content, guys, I'm Nemo, this is a cartoon review, and I'll see you next time. Peace.